Hello and welcome to the Watson Weekend. We are your hosts. I'm Rick Watson.
Hi, it's Jessica Liseski. Happy to be here. Happy Valentine's, Rick. Love,
Happy
love.
Valentine's Day, Heart. Where I'm in theme here. This is your weekly dose of medicine with just enough sugar to make it go down that little bit easier. We're your go-to place for retail, technology, e-commerce, and love. Love too.
All the things, love. When we love what we do, we are not professionals. We're getting there. We're
One step at
trying
a time.
one step at a time, very slowly.
Correct.
We have a lot to cover today, and
We
I
do.
am here to pay my debts. I'm not getting out of it.
A
Um,
Lannister always pays his debts.
Always pays. I even brought the special mic to
Golden
make it happen.
microphone. Let's
The golden
remind the
mic.
viewers what we're talking about here.
Yeah, let's in case you weren't here, which is
Last week.
surprising because I know all of you watch every single week, at
Correct.
all the time.
All
But
three
yes,
of you.
all three of you. We made a little bet on who was going to win the Super Bowl, as friends do. Rick picked the Chiefs. Rick picked the Eagles, which
This is confusing with the color
it is
today.
confusing because I thought you were wearing your Chiefs red in solidarity. It is for the Heart Day. So yes, and I lost. Um, you know, kind of eating my words a little bit, but I'm ready. I'm ready. And if you don't know what we're talking about, I said that I would rap "Lose Yourself" if I lost. I also was supposed to wear a green wig, and I forgot to buy
No green
one
wig, but
on
we do have.
Amazon or Temu. I actually did not want to get the lead poisoning. I don't know if you've seen the latest results on that. It's
Or a
not minimal
scorpion.
lead. Or a
Either.
scorpion. It's not minimal lead. We are like fire levels of red alert lead. And but yes, so I do have my mic. We do have the song queued up. If you stick around at the end of the show, you'll see it go down.
That I'm super excited about. We have a great guest on the show. Scott Lux, formerly of Esprit, has a long e-commerce history. We're going to introduce him after our headline hangover. Just a reminder, we're a live show, so if you're in the audience, let us know where you're calling in from, what you want us to talk about today. We have such a great retail e-com veteran on, super specialized in data and analytics as well. Scott and I have been together on a number of panels. He was at the Watson Weekend podcast and NRF event earlier last month, so there's a lot to get through.
There is a lot to get through. And we want to send a shout out to Miracle, the catalyst of commerce. We all know that e-commerce is changing at breakneck speed. If you're still playing by the rules of retail's past, you're leaving money on the table. A lot of it doesn't happen when you work with Miracle. They're empowering 450 retailers to flip the script, transform their business, and create this flywheel of AI-powered marketplace and retail solutions. So what's stopping you from joining that retail revolution? I don't know, Rick. Anything stopping you?
I don't know. You could be the 451st. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm hearing. So a lot of action, but thank you, Miracle. You make this happen, and hopefully you have zero regrets.
Unlikely.
So are we going to dive into the headline hangover?
I'm excited to get the show on the road.
That's
so
right.
I think we're at the headline hangover. And we're going to start with this clusterfuck of a supply chain, de minimis, tariffs.
It might make your head explode. It makes
Yes,
mine
it
explode.
will 100% make your head explode. There were tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Now they're not. And the administration is studying reciprocal tariffs on organizations. But if we look at what actually happened this week that seems to have stuck, at least for the next 5 minutes, it is definitely the fact that country of origin shipments from China are now no longer subject to the de minimis rule, which means that they're exempt from identifying the package through tariff codes, as well as they have to pay duties, which are 10% duties on any of those Chinese goods. And it's not something where if you're from another country of origin, those rules are still in place. And so really it's just kind of it's a nice message to China.
It really is. Uh, and I think we've talked about this before. Yes, there is a lot of things being imported, especially, Temu and all of the goods coming from those marketplaces. But we, what's to stop them from just diverting them to Vietnam or some other country and, maintain the very high profit margins that they have and continue to really export and explode this rule. So
Yeah, the answer is not much. I mean, look, these guys aren't dummies. They've been preparing for this. Half of Temu GMV is now from local warehouses in the United States, and so the fact is, if your supply is cheap, then you can maintain,
sure.
10% duties plus your customs clearance costs, which are a new fees, and even storage in the local warehouse cheaper, likely cheaper than what Amazon's charging you for FBA if they're finding their own direct warehouses. Shein, in particular, has also been manufacturing in South America, in Europe, so they're not just in one place.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the fly in the ointment here. And so we'll definitely monitor that on the program. We're talking to a number of new sponsors that want to like do a breakdown of supply chain and de minimis and tariffs and all these things going on. And cross border is one of my love languages, so
It
I'm
sure
excited
is.
to talk about that over the next couple of months.
It's had your heart for quite some time. And yeah, it'll be interesting to follow, especially what's the impact to even domestic retailers that had started to catch that train and ride the wave. So a lot to unpack. We can't talk about last week if we don't talk about the Super Bowl. And I'm not talking about the actual game. I'm talking about the parade of
real game.
celebrities, the real game, which is television's biggest night of ads that people actually watch and don't skip. So, the Super Bowl ads happened. It really was this parade of celebrities. I mean, Tom Brady was in multiple.
Right.
We had our friend.
I was
Martha
tired of
Stewart.
seeing Tom Brady. I mean, too much Brady.
There was a
overload.
lot of Brady. There was Brady pregame. There was
Correct.
Brady in the show. Look, they're milking that investment. That's just all it's coming down to. They're like, we
Right.
own you. We've paid you a lot of money. We're going to see that beautiful chiseled cheekbones as many times as we can. So, and then Gronk came along for the ride because he's Gronk. So
Beautiful chiseled cheekbones. There is a secret crush going on here.
I mean, I think that would I turn down
That
okay.
pause just told me.
Okay.
That pause told me everything I needed to know. We don't even need your
look,
explanation.
he's got veneers, he's got cheekbones, he's had Botox. There's a lot of work that's been done to make this man look how he looks. It's okay. So, I wanted to just understand, like, Rick, was there any ad that stood out to you, or are you pausing or hitting the snooze button on the
Yeah,
whole?
I think I'm a sucker for Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. I think that When Harry Met Sally reprise coming back with the
Yes.
Hellman's mayonnaise. Maybe they could have picked a better sponsor to bring it back, but we take what we can get here on the
Yeah,
program.
it worked. And they did a beautiful job because it was teased for like weeks before. And everyone actually thought that there was going to be a reboot of When Harry Met Sally. They did, a picture of them together. And so it created this amazing buzz. And I, for one, would love to see the show come back. I thought that, yes, it was a celebrity one, but the Martha Stewart Skechers where she was like, doing a little, skip and a hop, and she was showing off her dance moves, which 100% had some AI generation in there.
Yes. I don't think
I
she
thought
could
that
dance.
was pretty funny because actually that one made my kids laugh, so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, look at Martha Stewart. She's.
I'm
a legacy.
surprised they know who Martha Stewart is.
Well, when you watch the Olympics, the Snoop Stewart dynamic was very loud and proud. NBC played that out a lot. So
Got it.
yeah. All right. So let us know what you guys thought about the Super Bowl ads. Would love to know if you had a favorite. I've heard mixed reviews actually. Like I've heard that nothing was really memorable. So we'll see. All right. Going on to the next story. Kering, is this a signal of luxury losing its luster? So if you don't know, Kering owns Gucci, Bottega Veneta, So they have these like very high-end luxury brands, and they posted their results, a 12% revenue decline. E-commerce was falling, wholesale dropped 22%. And some of the biggest shifts were in countries like Asia Pacific, which was also down 24%. And that's kind of starting to show the crumbling of maybe even some growth in China that these luxury brands had relied on so much. So it's kind of interesting, I think, to see, is luxury in now the lull? Because for a while, Rick, we were talking about, if you were in luxury or you were at the bottom, you were pretty safe, right? Because there's always going to be that high-end buyer. There's always going to be the people that are looking for the cheap stuff. The middle was where it was really pressured. Now it feels like luxury is getting pressured. So do you feel like this is just a little blip and there's a comeback?
I'm not sure there's going to be a little blip. I'm a little bit worried about prices this year. I'm a little bit worried that a lot of these luxury brands have gotten a little boring. And I think there are a lot hotter brands that are almost like this like shabby chic luxury going on. Have you seen all the celebrities going around with these like Arc'teryx bird hats on? It's
Yeah.
like all over everywhere. Instagram, it's like I don't know, it can't be more than a $20 hat, but that used
Yeah.
to be a Louis Vuitton hat or whatever. By the
Right.
way, Caring, the wardrobe sponsor for the program is still open. You can deck
Oh,
Jess and I out.
yes. Yes. I'm happy to take any and all.
All of your brands, any of
Yeah,
them.
any of them, any of them. So, I think that this, as it does, right? You have a bad year, you have a down year, and you're like, oh, here's my strategic plan. So you want to hear the
Right.
strategic plan?
3-year plan. I'm
3-year
listening.
bold plan. Okay, brand revitalization.
Okay.
We're going to enhance product offering, get back to community strategies, exclusivity. Got to tighten up those channels. That's going to help the desirability and long-term, excitement around the brand. Leadership changes. Got to shake things up a bit.
Yeah,
So,
got to lay off
you know,
20% of people. That's
yeah,
part
we
of
got
any
to.
plan.
This isn't working. When in doubt, reboot
Layoffs.
and start again. And they're going to expand into beauty. So you're talking about go where the category is hot. Beauty is hot. It's been hot.
Correct.
So they're going to keep expanding, and we might see a little bit more of Kering's brands lighting up Sephora. But even like some of Chanel just opened a standalone beauty store like 5 miles from me. So it's kind of interesting to see where luxury is going.
Yeah.
Will it turn it around? I don't know.
Yeah, we will see. And so, again, I'm not kidding about the wardrobe. Like, we're waiting over here. Next is Amazon. They have announced that they are testing a new discovery algorithm so that they can send buyers off Amazon. And so, listen to what's happening here. Essentially, in the Amazon app, you search for something, and obviously you have things that are in FBA, things that are in Amazon warehouses, things that are in your seller fulfilled Prime, and like all those things.
Yeah.
But also, they're going to show items that are from the broader web. And so, like Google Shopping, you go to and you see like all these items, then you click off and go somewhere. You're going to be able to click off of Amazon and go then buy on the retailer's website.
Rick, it's like Amazon loves the 90s. They want a reboot. Do you not remember the days of Amazon shopping when we were at Channel Advisor? This is a big deal. And, so many brands were like just falling over themselves to take advantage of that program. Really banked a lot of revenue. I remember eBags was like one of our top customers, driving so much traffic from Amazon shopping, and like, well, we'll never have to go on Amazon because we've got this beautiful gift of Amazon just driving traffic. And so it's like, what's old is new again. What's their strategy? Like, what do you think?
I think the strategy is two things. Number one is Amazon's needs more ad inventory. I don't know if you've been on Amazon lately, but like 3/4 of all listings are ads. And so they probably can't make it 100%. And so they need more listings to put more ads on. So to me, that's number one. Second is, we're in a big time of disruption in search. Search is becoming conversations. And AI is disrupting how people find and make decisions about products. And so to do that, Amazon needs to be inserted into that conversation. And it can't just be about products that have inventory in Amazon warehouses. And so I think when you look at that, Amazon actually needs more inventory, not only to power its AI, but also for advertising. To me, that's another big point about this.
Yeah, it is interesting because there's really not much more inventory they don't have,
Right.
right? From a
Yeah. How
marketplace
many hundreds of
perspective.
millions of items that
How
they
many
have on the
hundreds of
site?
millions of items do you have? Like, do you think though this may open up those like final holdouts that had
Hmm.
not participated in any relationship with Amazon?
I I think probably the answer is yes, because if you think about what the consumer traditionally has done, they go to Amazon, they go three places. They go to Amazon, and then they type it in Google, and they might say Google Shopping like across the web, and then they go to the brand sites. Those are kind of like
Right.
the top three, generally of most product searches. So why do you go to Google Shopping is because you go find things that aren't on Amazon. Like, well, so to me, if I'm Amazon, like the natural question is to me is like, why can't we show you things not on Amazon? So you, why are we letting people go to Google if they can see somewhere on Amazon other things that you might not have to go to Google anymore? Then that kind of like kneecaps Google's AI a little bit, as well as keeps people on Amazon longer.
Yeah.
So
It'll
we'll
be
see.
it. Yeah, again, another fun thing to
It's
watch,
just a
but
test. We don't know when it'll come out, and it
yeah.
could easily never come to life.
Yeah, I don't know. Amazon usually doesn't throw things out into the wild if they aren't a little bit serious about it. So,
Exactly.
um, all right. Well, we're going to round out our headline hangover with another Amazon lookalike model here, which is TikTok getting into the subprime market. Really, it's the subscribe and save playbook is now coming to TikTok. It's kind of interesting, right? You know, they've got certainly a foothold on beauty. We talked about how big that category is, and that's been one of those drivers of TikTok purchases. I don't know that I'd get my vitamins from TikTok or my toilet paper or some of those other things that you would subscribe
Right.
and save.
Maybe beauty or
Um,
something.
but that's what I think. I mean, for sure, it's beauty. Probably not going to get my those like everyday household items that you would see residually coming. I could see a brand like Hims and Hers really playing off that very well, or Pros like the hair care brand that
Hair care.
does the formulated. Yeah, all about that. So yeah, I don't. Do you feel like of all the things TikTok is testing? It's kind of interesting they're going this route so early in that marketplace game, but they really want to control and kind of have people not leave their platform.
Yeah, they seem to be committed to growing TikTok Shop. How do we enable these creators? Look, it's hard enough to get one purchase. And so if you can get one purchase that then becomes a recurring revenue stream for their creators, I think that is super interesting. I think you can do that same thing on sort of Twitch and other platforms. I
Sure.
think they're taking a cue from those sorts of things. I also think that a lot of these creators don't have their own e-commerce sites. And so why should you have to set up a Shopify and then do all this thing and the subscription? Like, if you're
Just
small
layer in.
enough, like
Yeah.
TikTok can do it all for you. And so
Yeah.
I do think you'll see TikTok Shop sort of not competing with Shopify, but kind of inching up their functionality more and more so that they can be a one-stop shop for these smaller influencers.
Yeah, look, I'll hand it to them. They've been committed to the shopping. They're generating, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars very quickly at a time where, Facebook is still figuring it. I mean, remember Instagram shopping was supposed to
Yeah,
take over. That was like 2019 or something. It was going to
correct.
just take over and be the next big thing. And
It did not.
it did not. It is not the next big thing.
Right.
So kudos to them. Again, we'll be watching this one closely too.
Awesome.
All right.
And that's our headline hangover, folks.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. Well, we are really excited to bring our guest. Scott Lux is a retail veteran, e-commerce veteran in probably every sense of the word. He's been in all these aspects of e-commerce, digital strategy, performance marketing, analytics. He began his career in Seattle as the VP of online product development for Chase. And then he went to the agency side working for Wunderman Thompson, led the digital and e-commerce strategy for Converse, Nordstrom, and REI. And then after 5 years, moved over to the brand side, where he's led e-commerce and digital transformation for American Express, Morgan's Hotel Group, Diesel, John Bravado's Intermix Theory, Alice and Olivia, the list goes on and on.
Wow.
He's also been an adjunct professor at Columbia University and currently leads global e-commerce and technology for Esprit Holdings. So way smarter than us. I'm very
Correct.
excited to have Scott here. And let's bring him on and welcome him to the show.
Thanks for being here, Scott.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Yeah, so excited to have you here. You are one of those brilliant minds in e-commerce and technology. You've been in all of the different phases like we have, but
Yeah.
probably just done them more beautifully and better. Rick has talked a lot about this age of efficiency, and I'd just love to kind of understand from your perspective, what do you feel like is this era, after seeing all the different transformation that this industry has gone through? What's kind of your take on where we are right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I do agree with Rick. It's almost going back to the basics. And it was funny, I was thinking in preparation for today, I was chatting with our friend Vinny last night just about my agency experience. I pulled up some notes. And 15 years ago, we were talking about similar topics. So get a load of this. So emerging trends. This was a report I have from 2010 about the future of digital. Backtothefuture.com. Remember, we called it .com
Yes.
in 2010. The end of banner ads. Where are the next technology trends? Sound familiar? And it goes into mobile, which at the time was 46%. So 40% of your opportunity in shifting to mobile. Are you? Sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
So I think what happened is, from 2010, we saw substantial growth in e-commerce, a lot of players. And that's when I made the move from agency side coming to New York, started to see a lot of the middle tier brands becoming more commerce enabled. And the thought as we progressed, especially as we got into 2015 and a little bit into pre-pandemic, was, hey, there's a few amazing superstars out there, whether it's Warby, Allbirds back in the day, that just had rocket ship growth.
Yeah.
And there's a rush to e-commerce to say, okay, what's holding all these other brands back? We need to become commerce enabled. So whether it was, John Barbados, Allison Olivia, all the brands I've worked for, they've been around 25, 30 years and maybe had 10 to 15% of revenue contribution from e-com. Suddenly it was, how do we get to 40%? Oh, well, that's easy. Throw a ton of media at it, hire a growth hacker. Paid media was relatively easy, relatively cheap, and you could almost do no wrong. And then, oh, by the way, you should move to enterprise tech, Salesforce. You need this robust MarTech, and throw a bunch of technology to try to solve any little challenge that comes up. And I think what we've realized is it's just not a tenable solution. Exactly what you're talking about with luxury. I think we got over our skis a bit in thinking, how big is this growth opportunity? Right. And now suddenly you're saying, okay, it's not tenable to have this much tech. It's become really expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
And media and paid media, especially with Google, Facebook, we talked about Amazon, haven't even talked about Walmart and other marketplaces are really starting to gain traction. So you're kind of challenged with, I think, how do brands get back to the basic? What I think is lost is product is the hero. How do we get to inspirational experiences that are human-centered? So, what I mean by that is, when was the last time any of us were inspired by a digital experience or inspired by walking into physical retail? So I think that's where we're starting to see that shift. It's part efficiency, streamlining tech. We don't need 20 to 30 tech partners. I had probably 40 tech partners with Esprit at a $40 million budget. And that's what, honestly got us into bit sideways.
Yeah.
And so getting that efficiency, getting back to what does the brand stand for, and delivering just an inspirational experience across digital, physical, and human, anchored in product.
You make such a good point, and I think a lot of brands lose sight of this. Like, technology is not the point. The consumer is the point. And so if everyone is offering the same experience, then there's nothing differentiated. Like, why do I need to come back to this place? I'm just going to buy it on Amazon. Like, you're not offering any unique inventory. You're not offering any kind of unique service, or like, why am I going to be loyal, not just to the brand, but to the channel? And so I think every channel needs to have a point and a point of view. And what does it mean to that consumer to walk in either the digital front door or the physical front door, as you mentioned, which is like, there are a lot of stores that are not a lot of fun to walk into.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's interesting. Oh, sorry, Jess.
Oh
real
no, I
quick.
was just going to say, it feels like you're saying too, we're really prioritizing function over experience, right? It's like it's becoming a like task management. You're going to go here, 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 check out,
Oh,
right?
totally. Because I think that's where we got to. We looked at technology as a shortcut to growth, right? So it's like, okay, brand XYZ, we've got to grow 40% comp. All right, the solution, the fastest path to do that, let's cut out all the hard work in product design and experience. Let's just do tech,
Yeah.
and that's going to solve it all. So I think that's the challenge we ran into. And sometimes you have to do the hard work. You have to be okay in this world of 10% year over year e-com comp. So then how do we make that profitable and healthy versus this shortcut to get to growth that all of us know just isn't going to be there? I mean, and there may be some outliers, but for the most part, I think that's where we've settled in.
I think that's a good point. And we talked about efficiency. And look, your background is super interesting because I think you started on the financial side, went into the agency world, and now brand. Like, how did that journey sort of inform? Like, what things have you taken from those steps of your journey as you became kind of more on the brand operator side?
Yeah, I mean, going way back in the day, two things with started my career at Fidelity Investments. I was actually a broker, believe it or not.
I do not want any products today.
So, yeah, there you go. But what was really interesting, one, started my career basically on the 401k service side. So going back to the experiential piece, had to really learn early on how to service customers. And this was with 401ks when there wasn't a workaround. So we like to think in this world of retail, you can always make the customer happy. And that wasn't necessarily the case. 401k had strict laws on withdrawals. So I think that ecosystem kind of taught me a lot. The second piece, when I was at Washington Mutual, we had a CMO, Brad Davis, at the time, and we were competing, for those of you that remember Wells Fargo. I was in Seattle.
Yeah.
This huge, play against like Wells Fargo, Californians taking over Washington State. But Brad Davis said, I don't want to hire bankers. I want to hire people with retail and other background because I can teach anyone banking. And I think that to me stuck with me as I kind of evolve with e-commerce and digital is there are certain aspects that are commoditized. We can all figure out some of the tech, some of the analytics we were talking about earlier, but the true essence of a brand, I think, is something that has to be surfaced and getting that story out. And we need to go back to those storytellers and content creators to really get that across.
Where do you see which brands are, you think, on the right path to have that vision? Or is there anyone right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is very biased, so I'll put that as a caution. So those that know me become pretty avid runner. And I just think there's a lot of exciting things happening within the running community. One, because you have this natural built-in community. When I was at Intermix, Diesel, we were always trying to figure out, let's build this community of avid fandom followers. And it's tough to do that, but running has
apparel.
it built in. So I think, New York, there's Bandit Running, Tracksmith has been around, Satisfy. I love coming out of Paris. They've really taken this fashion trend and pushed it into running. And I'll probably post on this later. I was watching a brand video they did about 10 months ago. Google it on YouTube. And it's called, I Think I Saw You on My Run. And it's more on drugs. And I just think that essence, it captures the spirit of running through LA. And so I think a lot of those brands are really ripe for being able to capitalize, going back to that human connection. They do have an unfair advantage. You can host a meetup or a run. And I think the product combination of technical and fashion, and going back to product being the hero, is kind of key. Now, the challenge is there's a lot of them And so that's where that brand story and how do you stay unique and can you scale it out of these niche markets will be interesting. But Rick, I think those are the brands I think are doing it well within that space.
I think there's some beauty brands too that are doing a really good job of like harnessing their community. And we talked about, Canvas Beauty and Stormy Steele, who blew up last year on TikTok. And, she just has a lot of heart and it feels like you're talking to your friend. So I think that there's like some of these emerging brands too that feel like they're more relatable than, some of the like corporate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I think that is definitely the case. I think a lot of brands this will be interesting. I'd love to get your opinion on this, Scott. We originally met for the first time on the Shop Talk stage. I was moderating a panel where you were on, and Mars and Mattel were also on it, and you were talking about kind of a data summit that you had held and your experience using data and analytics in your business. Do you think that can be a double-edged sword, or is it always positive for a brand to sort of use more data and analytics to figure out how they're going to serve the customer?
Ooh, I think it's always positive as long as you're not paralyzed by the data. So I think a couple of things that we need to see happen. Jess, you touched on this earlier around KPIs and metrics. I think we need to change the KPIs and metrics we use for success, especially within social, talking about beauty brands, talking about awareness, just what are the right KPIs we need to look at. I would love for us to get rid of Google Analytics and for a brand to come up. And I think it's doable.
It's like
today.
The cockroach, Scott. It's not going away.
Well, but I think it can because, it used to be because you were so connected into AdWords and running your campaign there, but it's just become such a black box. And I think as brands get more comfortable with pulling back on paid media, you have to define your own success metrics.
Yeah.
And that's why I think data will always be important as long as you can take quick action from it.
Yeah.
Had a old, former CEO that said, retail's in the moment, and I still fully believe that you just have to take action, not live in the past, and data can help give you that unopinionated approach to where, what's working and what's not.
Yeah. So it feels like what you're saying too is we could be over metriced. And that might slow us down, right? Because I find this happens in business. It's like, well, I got this insight, but let me just validate that insight by looking at these 4 or 5 other metrics. And what's that telling? So curious, like, is that kind of your take? And we really just need to boil it down to like, what's the top 3 things we need to care about?
Yeah. What's going to be impactful to the business?
Yeah.
And keeping in mind, impact doesn't always have to be revenue, but I think you can define 3 to 5 needle-moving, impactful metrics to kind of give you a pulse on whatever it is you set out to do. Is it working or not? If it's not, how do you abandon it? If it is working, how do we scale it and roll that out in more opportunities?
Yeah, I love that. Can we dig into growth hacking a little bit?
I'd almost forgotten that word, for the record.
Oh.
I know it really was a flighty kind of thing that happened. So that was the thing, right? People got so excited. The only way to innovate is we got to carve off this team and let them go do their thing. What are the pitfalls of that, and how are you seeing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is with growth hacking in particular, it goes back to what I was saying with tech. I just think so many brands looked at e-commerce and digital as a fast pathway to higher revenue.
Yeah.
And it turned out, as we know, a little bit of a race to the bottom, but it was mainly like, okay, who's going to have the most top line revenue? And the idea was, hey, I'll bring in a growth hacker that knows Facebook and knows all of these little tweaks. And it was just a short-lived moment because suddenly Facebook's changing their algorithm, became more black box. As you put more money in there, your agency really couldn't tell you causality that say, oh yeah, we adjusted this campaign, or your growth hacker or marketing manager's like, yeah, I was on the phone with our agency, we made these adjustments. and you may see revenue go up. Okay, what did you do? Oh, well, we made these adjustments to campaign. Okay, what were they? Oh, I'm not really sure. So that's where I
Turn the
think
dial. Yeah.
it started to unravel a bit. And I think just for me, it's going back to just having that solid fundamental. I think people have to know retail. We've all been around the space. We lose sight of that retail is hard. And sometimes you have to do the hard things to get the best outcomes out of them. And that there's not really shortcuts in that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, we're talking about the age of efficiency, and we feel it in the business, right? We are asked to do more with less. We're trying to bring resourcing, boosting, and scaling through technology. Can you be efficient and innovate at the same time?
Yeah, I think efficient. I mean, it's one of those words that's just tricky. I think the biggest challenge I've seen is there's not really, you can call it a North Star, but having really clear goals that everyone can kind of rally behind.
Yeah.
And that'll help drive efficiency. The challenge is absent, and it's got to be a little more meaningful than, oh, we're going to grow top line revenue by X.
Right.
It's really, what is that North Star? What are we standing behind? What is our vision? And then you can be efficient, because as long as you're aligned to that and say, okay, anything the three of us do, is it supporting that vision? If not, we shouldn't be doing it. And that inherently will start to let you become more efficient. When it becomes inefficient is when you don't have that transparency or you don't have those goals. Then you're just throwing a bunch out there, and it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone was convinced that it was supposed to be so easy to be online just because everything is digital, and I had to pay for a lease, a store, and stock it with employees and get merchandise, like all this stuff. I can make a dropship business and be a millionaire. And I think it seemed to have affected a sector of the industry, that there's this sort of shortcut to good retail. And I kind of feel like we're heading back to that point. And I think your point about efficiency is a good one. To me, look, what is efficiency about? Efficiency is about constraints. We don't have unlimited money to spend to invest in this brand. And so let's be thoughtful about what our priorities are. What is the consumer value? And if you don't have that sort of consumer value North Star, then your innovation and your investments are going to miss the mark, like over and over.
Yeah. And part of that is tied back to product being the hero. I mean, a lot of the brands I've worked for, Barbados, I mean, John was meticulous in his design. He would go to Portugal to source supplies for his shoes. And I think we've kind of lost sight of that component, again, back to that inspirational product, because that's what we're looking for. When you're talking about Temu, and yes, we could probably go down this long rabbit hole. Is it inspirational?
We always do.
Let's not. There's a scorpion at the end of the rabbit hole. We already know the answer.
But I think that's where, Rick, what you're saying is you've got to provide that inspiration back to product and experience for a brand to work, and then determine how does that show up in physical retail? How does it show up in the staff you hire, the human element, and then, of course, digital?
Yeah, I think your inspirational commerce idea is super important, because in some cases you find the channel is the message. And so, like, if you go back to what's working, kind of like your TikTok, consumers are expecting things to come to them. Like, the world knows me. It should just give me ads. It should give me videos, whatever it is. When I log in, it should know who I am and just show me stuff I like to see. And so if you have that sort of mindset where you have a product that you believe will inspire a consumer, then that's really what your investments are geared around. I also think the marketing channels will reward you, especially in today's day and age, as opposed to 15 years ago when you started. Consumer would have to be searching for that stuff.
Yeah, we made them work hard. And then, the other part of it, tying to everything I said, it's really looking at next you have to have a solid holistic content strategy that supports that, which is enabled by tech and data. So I think that's going back to your question about data, what we talked about technology. It has to be an enabler versus the lead, and your strategy cannot be tech. So I think that's that whole paradigm: lead with brand and inspiration, robust holistic content strategy enabled by data and tech.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into where we think about for this year and next year. Are there big transition points that you see that if you're a brand in the audience and they're looking at like, okay, we just came off 224, pretty good year, not a great growth year, especially in apparel, kind of like flat-ish. Um, what are a couple of things that you would put top of mind in brand leaders in the audience as we think about the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think going back to content strategy, you have to find a way to have that holistic content approach, because then you'll be able to determine where does that content get distributed, back to what you're saying, Rick, to meet the customer where they are. Data, I think we've skirted around AI, but you have to have a data foundation.
Right.
And so I think that's important. I'm not saying, let's not race into AI, but what is your proper data governance? And that was the biggest thing when you talked about the summit that was a work in progress.
Yeah.
Is we realized we had data sources living in multiple places, but the common question we had is people were still like, I don't trust the data. So wait a second, we're going to layer AI on top of data you don't trust?
It's not good.
That, I'll start an agency to unwind all this mess, 3 years from now. So I think that's the second piece. It's just solid data governance and a data strategy and approach. And then third, I think not being afraid to really dig into causality and pull back from paid media and test into other channels around TikTok or streaming or marketplaces. And how can you pull back on that paid spend and not be so dependent on Meta and Google? Because honestly, those platforms are not really supporting the brand.
No,
really
it's not in your interest to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so not saying you should get rid of it, there's a place for it, but not being afraid to pull back on that spend and shift those dollars to other areas. Back to your question, Jess, that's where you can still innovate.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Scott, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your love for retail and advice for those of us as we're thinking about going on to battle this year and dust off the wounds from 24 and like gear up for 25 and 26. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have you back for the dance party. And we'll do it Valentine style. Yes, thank you so much, Scott. And so, as we love to do, our friend Nick Kaplan is going to come on and give us a little love letter to e-commerce and retail. So we're going to keep that theme going.
Yeah, we thought for Valentine's Day we would have to bring back Kaplan's Corner with a little bit of extra love this time. I mean, Nick always brings the heart, and we love you, Nick, but Valentine's Day is a special day.
It is. It is. Especially with our friends.
Gérald Depardieu. Baguette. Baguette. Voodoo fa-fa. Voodoo fa-fa-fa-fa. Voodoo fa-fa. Aïe aïe. Voodoo fa-fa. Voodoo fa-fa-fa-fa.
Here we go.
Hey team. So for Valentine's Day, I wanted to write a love letter, a Greek tragedy, a play to express my love and adoration for this business I was born into and just can't seem to escape. So here we go. Every day, a brand new fight. Every night, I chase the light. Retail, you thrill me, you break me in two. Yet somehow I always come back to you. The rush, the grind, the never-ending race, building brands, fighting for space. Commerce won't stop, it won't let me be, but damn it, retail, you complete me. I love the chase, the constant change, the puzzle that shifts, the rules that rearrange. A brand is a battle, a team a fight, a war we rage from morning to night. The late night sales, the numbers climb, that dopamine hit, it's worth my time. The people? Wild, brilliant, unchanged, entrepreneurs and dreams unrestrained. The winds feel high, the losses sting, yet here I stand through everything. Retail's a game with no real end, just endless ways to break, to bend. But retail, let's be real, let's talk. Margins so thin I can barely walk. One wrong move and the profits crash. A single mistake just burns the cash. Inventory, a noose, a chain. Too much, too little, it's all the same pain. Consumers, fickle, gone too fast, love you today, but it will never last. Port delays, freight costs, don't get me started. One hiccup and the whole plan's discarded. Everything must go right or say goodbye, good luck, good night. The numbers drop, the pressure grows, a game of highs, a string of lows. No mercy here, no safety net. You win, you lose, you hedge the bet. But still we fight, we play the game, chasing glory, chasing fame. Retail, we bicker, we scream, we shout, but neither of us is getting out. Like a marriage too tangled to sever, we may not be happy, but we're in this forever. Divorce, too costly, too much to unwind, so we sign the papers and pretend we don't mind. We don't stay for love or even the thrill, we stay because leaving is harder still. Because even when it's brutal, even when it's war, we both know we need each other more. Happy Valentine's Day, my people. Hope you enjoyed my letter.
Oh my gosh.
That was
What do we-
beautiful. So poetic. Who knew?
What do we do with that? I didn't know he had that in him.
We didn't. He's full of surprises, that Nick Kaplan.
I love that guy. Speaking of surprises, we're gonna bring Scott back, and we talked at the beginning of the show about it's not a rap battle. It's really just calling in a bet.
It
Last
is.
week, I predicted the Eagles would beat the Chiefs 41-28. It was it's a pretty darn good prediction. They hit the over. You took the opposite side, even though I have a Chiefs color on today. For Valentine's Day, the bet was you would sing Eminem's "Lose Yourself."
Did we call this singing? Yes. Yes, that is
Correct.
the bet. And I'm here to pay the Pied Piper, like our friend Eminem says in the song. So let's roll it.
Hit it.
Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize
I can't believe
everything
it.
you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo, his palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's joking how everybody's joking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. That is, he knows he won't have it. He knows. Go back to the folks.
This
He
is
don't have
fantastic.
it. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant. He knows. He goes back to this mobile home. Back when it's back to the lab again. Yo, so Rhapsody. Better go capture this moment and hope it don't pass.
Awesome. Mic drop moment.
That's it. That's all I got for you.
That's amazing. We were only going to let her go for 15 seconds, but I just couldn't help myself.
Thanks. Yeah, that was like I was waiting for you to call it. You know.
Nope.
All right, guys. That's all.
Thanks for sitting with us.
I'm gonna find a way to pay you back.
Thank
though,
you,
Rick.
Scott.
Thank
We're
you,
going to
Scott.
get it next year. Bye.